Shalom and welcome to this week's Living Torah. I was thinking about it this morning. I've said that or some form of that for over 18 years now. And I just did a little quick thing on the calculator. That's over 900 times. One of us should get an award. Probably some of you that have been listening that long. So I don't know if I can find a verse for that or not, but maybe it's there. All right, a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, I received a great email this morning from the folks at House of Harari. Many of you would remember it's been a number of months ago now that a fire was set and they lost their warehouse and everything, the place that builds these beautiful harps. So we were able to send a very generous, I think a very generous donation, and I say we, it wasn't me, it was we that were able to send that. So I just want to pass on a note of thanksgiving that they sent this morning. Number two is that Hebrew Nation, Hebrew Radio, Hebrew Nation Online, HRN, Hebrew Nation Radio. There you go. I get my Hebrew stuff mixed up once in a while. So Hebrew Nation Radio will be, which some of you listened to this program on, or at least you did until I messed up all that. They're going to be doing a couple of days of fundraiser on this month on the 16th and 17th. And so if you're able to tune in, if you're able to give, support, these are things that a lot of people take for granted in our day. In fact, let me just segue into something that Kathy said. We were talking the other day a little bit, and she said, she was wondering if people understand really that we're living in a time of plenty. But a time of plenty is something that you can take for granted until there's a time of not plenty. Time of plenty, TP. Remember about a year or so ago when all of a sudden there was no toilet paper on the shelves? How many people took for granted that there's just always going to be Charmin, and 500 other varieties of toilet paper on the shelves, and we're just going to be able to go no matter what, and we're going to be able to buy our toilet paper. And then all of a sudden, the time of TP, the time of plenty, I'm just coining that one, I'll give Kathy credit for it, that time is gone, and the shelves were empty. Now, if you go to the store today, I saw the other day that there was a store that was actually putting pictures of canned goods on the shelves to make the shelves look more full. I don't know that you've ever tried it, but eating a cardboard sign of a can of peas just is not quite as satisfying. It's just me. I don't know. So maybe we should look at the words of Shaul, who said first the natural and then the spiritual. And we're going to be getting to a time of prophesied time of plenty and time of not plenty in just a few weeks as we get into the life of Yosef. But before we can get to the life of Yosef, we've got to go through the life of Yaakov, or of Jacob. Of Yaakov. Now, I want to throw something out to you. Okay, this is an original thought. Kathy asked me the other day, she was listening to something, she said, where did you get that? I said, it was just there, okay? I don't spend most of my time trying to find things in books to teach you, because you could go get the book and, then I wouldn't have anything to do on Tuesday mornings. But, so I'm thinking about it, how for the brides of the patriarchs, for Sarah, for Rebecca, for Rachel, none of them did the patriarchs, the matriarchs were not in the land of promise. But every single one of them was in a place outside of Canaan, outside of the land of Israel. We could say it like this, that they were in exile. And every one of them was brought into the land. First of all, we see that Sarai was brought into the land. She was in the area of Haran, Ur of the Chaldees, Babylon, and I'll let you kind of work with that one a little bit more on your own later on. I think that there's some there's some definite contemplating time that could go on here. So Abram and Sarah are in Babylon, and they're in Ur of the Chaldees, they're in Haran, and they come into the land. For Isaac, a servant is sent into exile, into Babylon, to bring Rebekah. And for Jacob, he goes himself into Babylon to bring back Rachel. So, we have all three of these are in exile and brought into the land. Could there be some prophetic significance here? Okay, I'm just going to toss this one out to you, let you think about it. Let's go back to 1948. Prior to 1948, most of the Jews, and we could look at the Jews specifically as those closest to the lineage in bloodline. So let's put them more toward Abraham. The Jews had been dispersed into exile, the diaspora, and then after in 1948 began this return to the land. So could we see that the natural-born Jews, those that would be people of faith, coming back to the land, would be parallel to the story of Abraham and Sarah? That Elohim himself, it is taught that when the temple was destroyed in 70, that and the southern kingdom was dispersed, that the presence of the Father actually went out into exile with the people. And with Sarah and Abram at the time, we see this return to the land. We go then to the servant, who is pictured by many people as the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, that goes into exile to find a bride and bring back for Isaac. Since 1948, a time of travel, increased travel like arguably has never been since the creation of the world. There has been more evangelism done during this time, both in Christianity, Constantinian Christianity, now in Messianic Hebrew roots circles, even with, this broadcast is a form of evangelism. We go into numerous countries, South Africa, even into Israel. We have people in Israel that listen and watch this program. So there is a time, and we see on the Jewish side of the family, now I can't remember, the Chabad, okay? Chabad is all over the world. It's amazing. And the Chabad is about Jewish evangelism. So what do we see? We see this parallel with the servant, the Ruach HaKodesh, going into exile to bring back a bride. And then we have Jacob. And Jacob goes personally into the diaspora, into Babylon or Haran, finds a bride, and then eventually, after some time with Lavan, which we'll get to in a moment, I promise, brings her back. Okay, here's my question. Since if I'm right in this estimation, we have seen the Father bringing back his bride, bringing his bride into the land. We have seen the Ruach HaKodesh going into the diaspora to get a bride. But will there come a time in which we will see, and I've heard of this, I've never met anybody personally, but I've heard of this, that there will be personal visitations. I'm reading through the book of Acts right now, and it's, with Shaul, Paul, wrongly called Paul. It's Shaul. Nobody went and witnessed to the guy. No, they were afraid to. There was a personal revelation of the Messiah that nobody was really expecting. Is it possible that we would see that type of visitation once again in our day, that people would literally be woken up in the middle of the night, going about their business, whatever it is, and there would be this personal revelation of the Messiah that would bring them back as the bride into the land and the covenant of Israel. Okay, something to think about, okay? Now, Jacob, let's go directly to Jacob. So he leaves this thing, we've got the Esau and Jacob going on, he flees for his life, and it says that he goes to a certain place. Not just goes to a place, he doesn't just, get on his app and go, well, where's the closest Motel 6? Between Hebron and Haran. No, he goes to a certain place. And there he finds a certain rock, and he lays his head upon that rock, upon that stone. Now, it is well within my reasoning, at least, that he knew exactly where he was going, that he was going back to the root. He was going back to establishing and solidifying his faith, or at least that which had been given to him, passed down to him by his father. I don't believe this is the first time he has been to this place, that Isaac would have taken Jacob and Esau to this place, possibly even on the date that would later be known as Passover, pointed out to them the very rock that Abraham had placed Isaac on to sacrifice him. The story was told year after year after year. At some point in time, Isaac connected with that place and with the covenant. Esau rejected it. And so Jacob goes back to this certain place, to this certain rock, and he lays his head down upon that rock. He is connecting with the place, the story, the account, the event, everything that happened there. When he does, he is shown a vision of the Messiah, a vision of a heavenly realm that is interacting with an earthly realm. And see, there is in itself one of the purposes of, and people, would say sometimes, probably not many of you, why should we connect with our roots? Why not just, walk in all this other stuff and, it doesn't really matter, and the Christmas and the Easter and all of these different things. Why do we need to connect with our roots? Because it is at that place of that stone that the revelation is found. He would not receive this revelation outside of, he's not going to get that revelation over in Ur. He's going to get the revelation there at the place of the sacrifice, the binding of Isaac. And that's why we need to come back to that same place and connect with this place of the binding of Isaac and the message that comes forth from it. Now, it's in the revelation is something fascinating to me, at least, is that, I got to turn the page. It says, okay, go back. I've already turned pages there. I didn't go back to where I was supposed to go. And it says, your descendants will be, this is verse 14, your descendants will be as numerous as the grains of dust on the earth. That word dust is a fascinating word. The first time that it is used in Scripture is in Genesis chapter 2, when it says that Elohim brought forth Adam, from the dust of the earth. So when we see the word dust, it is linking of humanity to the place that we were created, what we were created from. Now, I could go into all kinds of areas here of, typical teaching today that we're not going to be upon this earth, we're going to be in heaven, and the earth's going to pass away, and global warming and all this kind of nonsense, or climate change now. All this kind of nonsense. Man was created to connect with the earth. And it says, you came from dust and you're going to return to dust. What is dust in your house? Okay, dust is actually the people that visited. Everybody that comes to your house and visits, you know what they leave? They leave parts of themselves. That's called dust. I know, it's a little on the gross side. I can watch our dog Kaya, who also was formed out of the ground, and she does that thing that dogs do. They kind of are able to shake. Wouldn't you love to be able to do that? Just once in a while, I look and go, that would be fun. I know. She just shakes everything, and if the sun's coming through the window, it's like all this stuff. What is that? It's dander. It's dust. Enter in the book of Psalm. Now, you got to really follow me to get to this point. Give you a little bit of an insight in how my mind works, which is very, very scary, or at least it should be to most people. In Psalm 102, it says this. I got to go back through there. Psalm 102, I will get there in a moment. Verse 14, 15, depending on your translation. For your servants love her very stones. This is talking about Zion. Read that section right there. For your servants love her very stones, and they kanan, or bend in kindness to her dust. I will make you as the dust of the earth. I will connect you with your origin. I will give you, because you sought out this place, Isaac. Because you sought out this place to connect with me, I'm going to give you a connection that's going to span eternity. All the way from the creation of Adam, which some believe, I agree, that Adam was actually the dirt. The dirt that Adam was formed from was right there where that stone was. And this would be later the Harabite, the Temple Mount, and the place of the temple, the Ark of the Covenant. And this is where the kingdom will be established, and the millennial temple will be there, and Messiah will be seated upon a throne that will be right over that place that Adam was formed from. So he's saying, I'm going to connect you. I'm going to connect you with the past, with the present, with the future, because of the covenant. It all comes back down to because of the covenant. This is why, I kid Moshe Kempinski when I'm there in Shorashim about there's dust in that store that was, probably around during the time of Abram, because they don't clean anything. Maybe during the pandemic, whatever you want to call it, maybe they've had a chance to clean it. Knowing Moshe and Dove, probably not. So to be able to connect, I'm literally looking. I can see in my mind going to Israel again, walking in Moshe's store, and just walking around I'm going to come back with like a jar of dust, I think. Okay, moving on. He says, goes on to say that, this is verse 20, if, it says in most translations, if Elohim, this is Yaakov speaking, took this vow, if Elohim will be with me. The word is can be translated if, but also can be translated when. I choose in this one to believe that it is when. This is not a statement of a condition. This is more of a statement of, I've heard of you. It's like Job. I've heard about you in my hearing, but now I've seen you face to face. Panim la panim. And so what is Jacob doing? He is making a statement that I've heard of you through my grandfather Abraham. I've heard of you through my father Isaac. But I expect that in exile, that I'm going to come face to face with you. So he makes this statement, and you will be with me, guard me on this road that I'm traveling, give me bread to eat, clothes to wear, so that I return to my father's house in peace. Then Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh will be my Elohim, and this stone which I have set as a standing stone will be Elohim's house, and of everything you give me, I will faithfully return 1/10 to you. Okay, now of course I can go into a message on tithing right there, but I have found that messages on tithing, for those that do, they're like, yeah, go for it. For those that don't, it's really very similar to speaking to a block wall. Because, no amount of scripture can I point out that says you should be giving, that 1/10 is his. It doesn't matter. There are those that just turn a deaf ear and wonder why, things happen in their lives. I'll leave it at that. Okay, so in verse, back up in verse 15, I got to go back to that one. It says, I will guard you wherever you go. I will bring you back to this land because I won't leave you until I have done what I have promised you. Do we realize that that is still a promise to us today? I will not leave you until I have done everything that I have promised you. So the Almighty is looking not just toward Jacob's time with Laban and his return into the land, past Esau and all those. No, he's looking into the diaspora that you and I are in. And this is where Yeshua would say, lo, I am with you always, even to the ends of the earth. This is a promise that is eternal, that he will never leave us no matter where we are. We should be able to take heart in that. So down, going back here to verse 20, what is exile? Exile is a place of the revelation of his faithfulness. Now, Jacob has heard of the faithfulness, but Jacob has yet to experience for himself the faithfulness, but he's going to. Okay, when he steps out, when he crosses that border, it's going to be a step that is forever going to be etched in his memory of just how faithful the Almighty is in his life. Now, he goes directly to this well, and what does he find at the well? Surprise, surprise, he finds a barren woman. Okay, well, history rhymes once again. And he finds a barren woman. Her name is Rachel, and you can read about this account and how he sees right off, the same as Eliezer. When the servant, believing to be Eliezer, comes back and he tells Abraham the story of a bride for Isaac, how many times do you think that Jacob has heard that story? Yeah, a lot. It's kind of like a broken record in his mind. And so he goes to this well, and what does he find? He finds the faithfulness. We see his family gathered there together, but the point to me is this, that it's about the watering of the sheep. Now, who are the sheep? Yeah, okay, Yeshua said, I came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. All through Scripture, the house of Israel is called sheep. Okay, and so Yaakov steps in here and says, let's water these. And here's the statement that's made. The boys answered, they said, we can't, not until all the flocks have been gathered together and they roll the stone away from the opening of the well. That's when we water the sheep. Okay. Yeshua, Messiah, tells us he will give us living water, that he is the living water. It's one of his titles. So let's look at the scenario here. The sheep are gathering together because of the watering of the sheep in recent days. There's maybe little pools of water, various places that they can lap a little bit of water from. But it is not until all of the sheep are gathered together in unity at the well. What do I mean by in unity? When the sheep come to the well, what is on their mind? Water. All right? That's what they're looking for. They know that when they come to a well, that they're going to be getting by that time, much needed drink. They've been out in the sun, they've been out in the elements, they've been eating their little grass along the way, but there's something about a refreshing drink of water that is going to bring them all together. So when they come to the well, what are they? What word could we put in here? They're thirsty, okay? They're very thirsty, to the point that they're probably not fighting amongst each other. They're not quarreling amongst each other. They are one-minded. We need water. And it is not until all of the sheep are brought together at the well that the stone is rolled away from the well and they're all able to drink freely together. So could it be that, let's go back to Judah and Ephraim, let's go back to the 12 tribes, let's go back to northern kingdom, southern kingdom. There is and this is difficult for some people to grasp, there is a revelation of the Messiah in Judaism that is not found in the rest of the family. There is a revelation of Messiah in Christianity. It may be perverted in ways, but there is a revelation of Messiah in Christianity. And I say that with a little bit of hesitancy because of what Christianity is now turning into, and is morphing more and more away from that revelation. For the most part, from what I see, not toward that revelation, okay? So, give me a little bit of leeway right there. There is a revelation of Messiah in the Hebrew roots messianic walk. Here's what I'd like you to consider. That none of us have a full revelation of Messiah. And it will not be until, a friend of mine said it, I heard this secondhand, but said it as clearly as I have heard. They were asked about salvation. And they said, yes, I do believe that salvation is through Yeshua. But they said there is a part of salvation that is a mystery. Do you understand that? I mean, I got that. I understand that there is a part of salvation, of redemption, that is mysterious to me. And I've come to the point in life of, not only am I okay with that mystery, but I embrace that part of the mystery of salvation. I find the mystery of redemption intriguing, of how the Father is going to bring all this together in the end. In the end, when we all come together, when the whole family comes together, gathers at the well, that at that moment in time, the rock is going to be removed. And there's going to be the revelation, the fullness of the revelation of Messiah will be in that time, but will not be until that time. So no matter what revelation we feel like we're walking in, let me put it to you like this. We're drinking, I believe that right now, we're drinking through a straw. We've got our little straw. There's the well, and somehow we figured out how to get a straw down next to the rock, find the water down at the bottom, and we're sucking through a straw. But one day it's going to come in bucket loads. May that day be soon in our day. All right. So we find another, barren woman at a well. Surprise, surprise. And then we're introduced to none other than our buddy Laban. Laban. His name means white. All right, so he is a picture of holiness on the outside. And let's see this guy in verse 13. When Laban heard the news of Yaakov, his sister's son, he ran to meet him, hugged him, kissed him. Oh yes, brought him into his house. Yaakov told Laban all that had happened, and Laban said to him, "You are indeed flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone, and related to the guy that gave us all the stuff." That's what is Laban's mind. Laban's thinking camels, okay? Laban still remembers the day that the servant came from Abraham, and had camel loads full of stuff. And he's looking at Yaakov and saying, "Okay, you're flesh and blood. Yeah, I got that one, but I'm looking around to figure out where these camels are. And maybe if I can make a deal with you here and have you hang out for a little while, well, somebody's going to send some more camels along." Yeah. So we have Laban this is the encounter that Yaakov has, is an encounter with deception. Plain and simple, encounter with deception. And interesting enough that Laban, in the, Jacob falls in love with Rachel, and he's working out this deal. I'll work for you for 7 years. Why 7? Because he understands Shemitah. He understands the Shemitah and the purpose of the Shemitah and the releasing of debts at the end of the Shemitah. All right? He's been taught this because he's related to his father, who's related to his grandfather, who was taught the Torah by one of the guys that got off the boat, who was taught it by Noah, who was taught it by Methuselah, all the way back. It all goes back to Adam, who began to teach when he was exiled from the garden. The principles of the tree of life went with him. Okay, so he's setting up a Shemitah, and by the way, we're in a Shemitah. All right, so he goes through the Shemitah. We all know the story here of the deception of Leah versus Rachel, and how he has to work another 7 years. By the way, remember the 7 for the time of Joseph. The Shemitah that we're in is probably much more profound and prophetic than most of us have realized. And let's see what it plays out with as we go forward, okay? There's numerous books that have been written about the Shemitah, and I know Jonathan Cahn has one. I was given one the other day. I can't remember. It's not here on my desk, so I can't remember what the name of it is. But, just kind of consider this Shemitah cycle, that as they walk through, and I'm not really sure what to do with this one, but the end of the Shemitah cycle for Jacob was a revelation of deception. That he consummates the marriage. And at the consummating of the marriage, he finds out he's been deceived. Now, what I'm going to lay out to you, I haven't really thought through, and I'm not sure if there's really an answer to this, so I'm kind of tossing it out to you guys more for your consideration. But will there be a time of a Shemitah that will end in deception for many, and will cause them to then have to enter into another 7-year period in order to find the truth? Okay, now this is not to state that Rachel is truth and Leah is a lie. Okay, this is just a prophetic picture that's being played out here in front of us. So will people give their whole lives in the end finding that they have served a Lavan system? A system that is taught to be white, pure, portrayed as pure. But when you have given all of yourself to it, you find in the end that it has deceived you. And therefore, you must basically go back to the drawing board, back to the foundation, and begin to rebuild on a different, on a level of truth and not deception. You understand Lavan for who he is. Is that a place that you and I, many of us, are in today, that the reason why we've walked away from Sunday, we've walked away from the holidays of Constantine of Marcion, of many of the church fathers, the doctrines that they portrayed, because we have come to the place of raising the veil, or the veil has been risen, has been brought forth, has been taken away for us, because I don't think I was smart enough to take the veil up. I just, you get kind of caught in the moment, but the veil was removed and we've seen the system for what it is. There is a move in Messianic circles. I'm not speaking regarding anybody specific, but there is a move in Messianic circles to, well, we need to go back to the church. I see Levon for who he is. You're not going to change Levon. Levon is a deception from the beginning and will be a deception in the end. I'm going to let you just kind of play with that one on your own. Now, here we got chapter 30, Rachel saw that she wasn't bearing children. Here we got Leah, she starts to bear children, and Rachel's over here, and she figures out she's barren. She envied her sister and said to Yaakov, "Give me children or I will die." How different is this from the last one, Rachel's going, "Give me children or I will die." And Rebecca's going, "You gave me children and I'd just as soon die." There is this interesting dichotomy between these two women of, one of them becomes pregnant with the covenant and is like, I just as soon die because is go on with this thing. The other one sees that she's not part of the covenant and she's like, if I can't be a part of it, I might as well go ahead and die. And we start this, and then it goes from here into the, and I'm not going to get into all the different boys and what happens in each one, and the mandrakes and all of this. I still think, and maybe I should be the one that writes this, but I'm probably not going to do this. I think that this could be like, you would have to come up with a new title, a new book or movie title. You get science fiction and history and all these things. You'd have to come up with a new title for the book or movie written on these chapters. And it would be biblical comedy. It really is. I mean, if you kind of step back from the whole thing and you study out like the mandrakes and things like this, this is the comedy act of the making of a dysfunctional family. All right, we've all, many of us probably remember the old movie Yours, Mine, and Ours, and various like the Brady Bunch and stuff like that. The Yours, Mine, and Ours, the Brady Bunch, whatever else you could term in here, those were boring as compared to what this is, and still the most the thought that comes up in my mind as I read this, that here is again the most dysfunctional family that has ever lived on planet Earth, maybe. We're still walking in that, by the way. We haven't gotten to the place of the rock at the well. We're still in the dysfunction. And that family, I mean, just the very thought of it is so outrageously amazing. The one day, the most dysfunctional family ever have lived will be the standard of righteousness. In the kingdom, the 12 tribes coming together at the living water, at the rock, the full revelation of Messiah will be the ones who take that message of the kingdom to the world. Most dysfunctional family will be the standard of righteousness. And there's not a single one of us that will be able to say, it was because of me. No, we will probably all stand there together in saying, he did this in spite of me. Yeah, that's how it's going to be. All right. We see in verse 13 here, we see Laban for who he is, as the exile is being reversed. Laban, after the deception, he still continues to deceive. But we also see that, I'll go to chapter 30, verse 13. Not that one. I think it's in 31. Okay, let me just get I wrote down the wrong one here. So we see Laban is revealed for who he is. It is in exile that the Laban system will be revealed for exactly what it is. And I believe that you and I are part of that revelation. But as that revelation comes, so comes the beginning of the end of your exile. And that's why many of us have this incredible desire in us for the kingdom to come, for us to be restored, to go to Israel, to be there in the kingdom, because the revelation of Lavan, the Lavan system, has opened up the door for us for the exile to be reversed. So we see that Jacob begins his journey from exile back to the covenant. And what happens? Laban comes after him. When you begin to leave exile, exile does not stand on the porch and wave goodbye at you. Exile, the system doesn't say, wow, it's been nice. I've really enjoyed the time we had together. Thank you for the work that you've done. Thank you for all the giving. Thank you for the buildings that you built and all this stuff. And, have a blessed day. Enjoy the rest of your life. I pray that you would live happily ever after. No, the system comes after you. Be careful when you look in your rearview mirror and there's Laban standing there. And the reason Laban is standing there, one of the reasons Laban is standing there, is that Rachel left with a remnant of exile. Rachel left with a remnant of Lavan, of the system. Go through your house. I know we do the, unleavened bread, all those things. Okay, Yom Kippur. Make sure as you're looking around your house, spiritual, natural, watch out for remnants of Lavan that someone has brought with them, because that remnant is plan B, and in the end will bring death and destruction. I'll get to more of that as we go through the Torah portions. Until then, Shabbat Shalom, Shavua Tov. Pray you have a blessed, prosperous week. Bezrat Hashem, God willing, see you again next week. And until then, be strong.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmarecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha. Shalom.